What's up, everybody? It's the Roundtable Sports Podcast. My name is Taylor McLean. We've had another action-packed week of football in the books. Week 11 did not disappoint for action. Apparently, we only had 45 touchdowns according to Red Zone in the two slates of games, and that's a little low, but it still felt good. Everything still felt right. Felt like I was entertained for 7 straight hours. Then we had a nice Sunday night football game as well. So everything felt right to me. I still find myself enthusiastic about the season and what's going on here and just wanting to keep shoveling in the football to my face over and over and over again. I'm excited about Thanksgiving coming up. We're going to have more football on Thursday than we usually get. Plus, we all get to see our families. Hopefully, that's a good situation for you. I love my family and can't wait to see them. I'm also very happy with our sponsor, Evergreen Power Solutions. Super happy to have them on board. Not only can I say I'm a professional podcaster now, but I also can try and save my listeners some money. This is only for my Texas listeners, but if you give them a call, they're going to try and save you money on your power bill right now by shopping the lowest rate for you. So boom, power savings right off the bat. And then if you're like me, you let the contract go, you don't pay attention to rates, you're not shopping around to try and save yourself money, you just don't have the time or the inclination. They'll go back in 9 to 12 months later after you sign up, renegotiate the rate, try and get you a lower rate. And guess what? If the rates have gone up at that point, your rate doesn't go up either. They're going to keep you where you signed up at. If they can't get you a lower rate, that's going to save me a ton of money in the long run and allow me to focus on the things I need to focus on, like watching football so I can talk about it with y'all. Give them a call at 214-444-9816. Once again, that's 214-444-9816. Tell them Taylor McLean and the Roundtable Sports Podcast sent you. That'll let them know that Taylor and the Roundtable is how you heard about them, and then they'll save you some money. Sounds like a win-win for everybody. Let's get to some football. Now, I hope that most of you who know me don't say, Taylor, you're doing this game first because you're a Cowboys homer and the like. I was 7, 8, and 10 when the Cowboys won their Super Bowl, and I've lived in Texas my whole life. So yes, I am a Cowboys fan. However, I am a realistic Cowboys fan, and I came into this game somewhat concerned with the 8-1 Minnesota Vikings. And I tell you what, even knowing the results today, if we play them again, I am still going to be equally concerned in the playoffs as well. I know this game turned into a blowout by the end, and we ended up seeing Nick Mullins and Cooper Rush, which ironically, a lot of Cowboys fans wanted to see Cooper Rush keep going as the starter. So those fans got to see him once again. He's a fine backup, and he's a better backup than I ever thought possible. But when he's in the game, when Nick Mullins in the game, you know something went terribly wrong for at least one team. CBS did a great job clearing off the schedule. So I got a pretty good look at this game in the second slate of games. They tried to make it the national game in the second window like they like to do. They like to have one big-time game in the second set of games so that people are talking about it, people have eyeballs on it, and it creates buzz for the league. I don't know if they accomplished that goal with the way this game went down. Obviously, the Cowboys are always ratings, especially when they go up against a good team. And despite the results, I do think that the Minnesota Vikings are a good team overall. It's just the Cowboys are a really bad matchup for what the Vikings like to do. The Cowboys offense is one thing, and we'll talk about that versus the Minnesota defense as well. But it really felt like this game was won by the Cowboys defense. No shock. There was a ton of sacks and a ton of pressure put on Kirk Cousins on this day. The offensive line was already a little outmatched, and then they lost 2 pieces of their puzzle with Darisaw and Cleveland. It wasn't going great when they were in there per se, but when they were out, and really this, when anyone has what I would call a Waldo on their line, the Cowboys are really a depth at taking advantage of that. They have a bunch of good rushers, that are able to rush from different spots on the field. Nobody is stationary, especially at where they can rush from or where they line up on a given play anymore. Used to be, hey, DeMarcus is our left end. He's going to stay there. The Cowboys do a good job now of kind of moving everybody around. And that stems off of Micah being able to rush from any spot on the field. But really, Dorrance Armstrong, DeMarcus Lawrence, they bring in Dante Fowler to rush from the defensive tackle position. That's been especially effective in short spurts and on passing downs. And then, of course, like I said, Micah himself, that's a bunch of quality pass rushers, Dorrance Armstrong included in that, who I think is highly underrated, that are able to get after the passer. You really need to be able to run straight at the Cowboys and get them off of their pass rushing game. And it seemed like the Vikings kind of abandoned the run a little too quickly and when they did run, ran towards the edges where the Cowboys are strong and didn't run up the middle as much where the Cowboys are weak. That was one place that the Cowboys also took advantage on the other side. Was the Vikings are similarly set up. They're better on the edges. They have better linebacking than they do defensive tackles. And the Cowboys actually were able to pound the ball inside a bit and take advantage of that and then work the edges. They worked it inside out. The Vikings never had the inside part. And so they're just out and they were just trying to work the ball down the field, like trying to work it to Justin, not exclusively, but it seemed like they were trying to overwork him and overfeature him in a way that was destructive. Because even when they weren't blitzing, they seemed to have the Vikings number. And then by the end of it, you knew Kirk Cousins was passing and you knew they were going to have to try and throw themselves back into it. And they were able to tee up and really bring it to him. And this is not to say that this pass rush was all their problem either. There was also schematically some problems with what they were doing and how they adjusted to the pass rush throughout the game. So you don't stick to the run game. And then you compound that by trying to work the ball down the field too much, not getting the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands, not dumping it off and giving your running back or your receivers a chance to run with the ball. Everything felt like it was kind of downfield and trying to work into making explosive plays for Justin, which should absolutely be a part of the game that the Vikings were trying to play with the Cowboys. But I think they went overboard. By the time they could have, turned course and got back to everything, it was already too late and they were going to have to play catch up at that point. And this is a team that is meant to be playing with a lead. Like the defense is set up to pass rush more, and the offense is set up more to ball control and be able to work more of a balanced offense. And without the balance to the offense, the play action wasn't there. And then you had to rely on Kirk creating with his arm and in straight dropbacks. And Kirk isn't a fast decision maker. He really needs to see it. And he needs to be set up in a clean pocket to be able to deliver the ball. That's why you see so much play action with the Vikings, because Kirk needs that time and he needs to see the field in that way when you're counting on him to throw guys open, to create extra time with his legs from within the pocket and getting out of the pocket and counting on him to create outside of the offense in that way. That's a recipe for disaster. Those are the weakest parts of his game. And sometimes those parts of the game are what football boils down to. Sometimes you have to throw your team back in the game, or even you have to make that last drive at the end of the game, and the other team knows that you're passing. That's always been my question with Kirk. That's my current question for the Vikings is, are you going to be able to win games like that? Are you going to be able to make those comebacks? They had been making them up until this point, right? It wasn't just Kirk. It was, a fumbled snap and the defense and all of that too. But Kirk had been making more of those throws. It's just now the entire game came down to him making those throws. And the Vikings kind of did it to themselves, not working the other parts of the field. Like, where's the horizontal screens and flipping it out to Dalvin, making them pay for covering you so well down the field and committing to Justin and all those things that they did? They were never made to cover the intermediate and the short parts of the field in the way that spreads the defense out. And the Vikings paid for it. They paid for it dearly. Now, some of that stuff wasn't working either because of the defense from the Cowboys, but they just were never threatened in that way. And there's never a chance for Hawkinson to use his explosive playmaking on anything but going up and getting the ball. He needs to be able to run with the ball in space. Same thing with Dalvin. Same thing with Justin Jefferson. They need space to operate in, and that doesn't happen when it's all jump balls going down the field. It just doesn't. That needs to be a part of it, and you need to threaten the defense in that way so that you can get the short parts of the field and get all that easy stuff. There was nothing easy about anything the Vikings did on this day, it felt like. So, yes, chalk it up to Cowboys pass rush getting after Kirk and making him extremely uncomfortable, but I also chalk it up to no sort of adjustment from the Vikings as well in this game, and that is troubling for them going forward. Good news is their schedule, they could win every game of their remaining schedule and be the 1 seed. No problem. No problem at all. The Vikings are absolutely capable of winning every game on their schedule. Don't believe me? Tell me which one of these games is an automatic loss for them. Patriots, Jets, Lions, Colts, Giants, Packers, Bears. Feels like there's a lot more automatic wins in there than there is losses. They're going to have a high seed in the playoffs. They're going to represent the North in the playoffs. But the question is, what happens when they get there? Are they going to be able to get around things like this? As I said before, the Cowboys are an extremely bad matchup, and the Cowboys should be stoked about what they did. The pass rush was incredible. It's based around Micah, but it's not just Micah, and that's what you want to see at this point. On the other side, it just felt like the Cowboys had a better plan. And it's funny because the Vikings are set up pretty similarly on defense as well. They don't have a Micah Parsons, but Danielle Hunter is a solid pass rusher, as well as Zadarius Smith. You've got solid guys at every level of the defense and kind of rely on making big plays. The only thing is the Cowboys did all of those things I was talking about that the Vikings should have done. The difference being that the Cowboys offensive line was getting a lot more push and opening up a whole bunch of running lanes for the Cowboys to run through. It seemed like at any given time that when the Cowboys wanted, they could run it up the middle and get what they needed to yardage wise, ripping off 6-7 yard gains at a time. As I said, I like the outsides of the Vikings defense. The question is the insides and what they're going to do against teams that are able to run the ball up the middle on them. It seems like there's a distinct lack of bulk up the middle, and that was a big problem today. Then you have to overcommit resources to stopping that, and that opens up things on the edges. Cowboys obviously took advantage of that as well. Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, both getting 2 touchdowns apiece. There were big plays made in the passing game as well. CeeDee Lamb seemed to be getting open and made the tough catch before halftime to get the extra points. Not that it ended up being needed, but it felt like at that time you needed to build everything you possibly could to go against the Vikings' eventual comeback. Unfortunately, for the Vikings, that never happened because of the reasons we talked about earlier with the defense. But it all was ginning because of that offensive line and because of what they had going on. They couldn't get that same thing going against the Packers. So it's interesting to see them get it going against the Vikings today. There's a lot of people caught up in Dallas on Tony versus Ezekiel Elliott. And I get where they're coming from. It's really easy to see Tony on these explosive plays and think that he should get every snap from the running back and he should be the running back this and Zeke sucks that and Zeke's salary this. And I just need everybody to get over it. Okay. Zeke's salary has been paid. Okay. He's not going away this year. He may be gone next year. That is an issue for the offseason. Once the season starts, Salaries are irrelevant. It is great to have both of these running backs. They do different things. Zeke does a lot of the things that you don't see. Pass block. Pass block's a huge part of it. Tony's not a good pass blocker. Getting those inside runs and being able to grind that out. Not having to use Tony in those situations when you're going to do those runs is a huge luxury. Zeke has a nose for the end zone and a nose for extra yards in those nitty gritty times. He might not be the same home run hitter he used to be, but he serves a function in the Cowboys offense. His salary has been paid. Get over it and stop talking to me about it, because I'm over it too. Tony Romo was all over it in the game. You need to make Tony Pollard the starter. I'm not saying that Tony shouldn't get more carries than Zeke. I'm saying that they are both useful. We should be glad to have them both, even if we're overpaying one of them, and then we might lose one of them the next year. Because Tony Pollard might be out of here. He might say, you know what, I'm tired of being behind Zeke. I want a new job. But for this season, none of that matters. We're talking about now. We're talking about a team that has a legendary pass rusher in the making, and you can win around that kind of pass rusher. You just have to have your head on straight in every other instance. And even though the Cowboys won this game, still doesn't feel like they have their head all the way on straight when it comes to the offense. There's still times where it sputters for reasons that seem inexplicable when you have the personnel that you have. And apparently, the Giants didn't have a good game. The Giants and the Cowboys were the teams that Odell was considering joining, and now it kind of seems like it might be the Cowboys. I think that would be great for the Cowboys. Say what you will about his attitude and the like. He'll be coming into a ready-made team with leadership and the like. And if he's at all what he was last year for the Rams, having him on the other side of CeeDee Lamb makes perfect sense, because CeeDee Lamb is not as good as Cooper Kupp, but has a Cooper Kupp element to his game and can't always be the number one in every given situation because of his size. And if you have somebody on the other side that they have to worry about as well, like, oh, you used to have an Amari Cooper who you gave away for nothing, who has 2 touchdowns today and looked incredible. What were you doing there? It's inexplicable, the whole thing. So let's not worry about that. That already happened. They already screwed that up, and everything's okay anyway. So let's hope that they bring in Odell, and we'll see what happens with that. Got to be happy with the win, no doubt, but I'm still not completely sold, especially after losing to Green Bay. We're going to run into teams that commit more to the run and that have a better game plan on how to attack the Cowboys. We've already seen it with the Philadelphia Eagles. We saw it with Green Bay last week somehow, and Aaron Rodgers. We'll see what they do with the rest of the schedule. Definitely some winnable games in there, but a couple of tough ones with the Eagles and Titans later on. Giants on Thanksgiving, Colts, Texans, Jaguars. Hopefully they're able to take care of business and put themselves in a good position to succeed. We'll keep up with it, obviously, because I'm not going anywhere on the Cowboys. Seems like the rest of the league isn't either for a while until we hit the nitty-gritty time in the playoffs. One final thing I saw with the Dallas Cowboys before we move on to the next game, when they put the second unit into the game, I kind of tuned out a little bit, except for I noticed that Tyler Smith was playing left guard with the second unit, and I thought that was interesting. I think he's been great at left tackle, and he's going to have, brain farts, and he probably cost us a touchdown or hurt a drive at the very least with what they called an illegal shift, but essentially looked like a false start. But regardless, I've been impressed with his play, and to have him have played as well as he has at left tackle is a big boon for the Cowboys overall. But seeing him at left guard made me think about what's going to happen when Tyron Smith comes back. It seems like he's getting closer from what they're reporting to being back in the mix. And to see the Cowboys mix Tyler Smith in at left guard kind of makes me think that's the plan, as it was when they started the season before Tyron Smith was put out with injury. We'll see what he looks like when he comes back. His salary is already paid. And honestly, with the way his salary is set up, he's probably locked in for next year as well. They can save $9 million, but they're going to be losing $8 million. So maybe there's somewhere in the middle for him, some middle ground between him and the Cowboys there. Hopefully there's middle ground between him and the Cowboys and him and the Cowboys and Zeke as well. But just to note, when we're talking about Odell coming back, we may have Tyron Smith coming back to the Cowboys as well, pushing Tyler Smith inside. That's a lot less space for him to have to operate in. And he is a mauling run blocker who you can pull and basically do all the different things you need to do with him. But also pushes Connor McGovern back to allow him to be the fullback and the sixth lineman as well, should we need him in another position or need to run some sort of unbalanced front. That just gives you more options. So it just triggered me a little bit seeing Tyler Smith at left guard, which originally was the plan for him in the first place. Thank goodness he's played as well as he had and given the Cowboys options at left tackle too, though. The next game that I watched was the Cincinnati Bengals win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was a fun game that I enjoyed watching. Both teams very even in the first half. Pittsburgh ekes out a field goal at the very end to have the lead. I find this game interesting because of the quarterbacks, no doubt, but the overall teams have some dynamics to them that I wanted to explore as well. On the Bengals side, Joe Burrow is an incredible decision maker. And if you don't like Joe Burrow, then you just don't like good quarterback play. Like, honestly, other than being one of his opponents, I don't understand what's not to like about him. Seems like a solid dude on and off the field. And I just can't get enough of watching his game. He makes on time, accurate throws it deep when it needs to go deep, throws it short when it needs to go short, gets it out of his hands quickly at times, but then also is willing to hang in there and take a big hit to get the playoff and get the ball downfield. He hasn't had Jamar Chase either at this point. And T. Higgins hasn't really been a dominant target going into this game. So it was also interesting to see T. Higgins be able to take over. Clearly not having Minkah Fitzpatrick affected the Steelers a bit, but make no mistake, T. Higgins being as dominant as he was throughout the game, even surviving a bad fall off of a big catch, not only making that catch, but coming down hard and then being able to get back in the game later on at some crucial moments and get first downs, get big chunks of yards, and be able to be a reliable security blanket for Joe Burrow. It was especially encouraging for the Bengals to see T step up in that way when it hasn't really felt like that in the last couple of games. And when you can't blanket take a guy away and then Joe is able to distribute the ball to the rest of his receivers with ease and allow them to run with the ball once they catch it, because he is putting it on them so thoroughly and so perfectly where they can catch the ball, keep running without thinking about the catch at all because it's right on them. It's when, you see the ball too low or it's behind them or whatever, and they have to slow down and make the transition from catching the ball to running. When Joe hits somebody in stride, they don't have to make that transition. They can continue on with their stride, and it makes you faster and makes you more dangerous when running the ball. It's one of those things that you don't really see, but it's one of those things that he does that Kirk Cousins doesn't do. Like, that's one of the big differences in the game. It's not just the quick decision making, because you know what? The Bengals faced a lot of the same things that the Cowboys did in this game. TJ Watt is back and looks dominant. He is really good. He didn't crush this game, but the pressure was on all day. Him and Lyle Collins going head to head, and Lyle would just be big enough to get in front of him sometimes, and Joe would get the ball off. Somehow Lyle thinks he dominated TJ when he was able to still get pressures, and that interception was incredible. Joe got a lot of passes knocked down today, and you have to give credit to not just TJ Watt, but the rest of that line. Lua got one. I love Highsmith. Highsmith is a really quality pass rusher. It makes a difference sometimes being in the room with these other quality guys. And Highsmith has been fighting for snaps for a long time to get to this point behind other pass rushers. So to see him succeed to this extent is impressive and good for him. Now, he does have two really dominant forces that the offense has to focus on in Cam Hayward and TJ Watt now, but even without that, he's good in and amongst himself, and I'd want to have him on my team too. So the fact that he can be that third guy, when you have one game wrecker, that's one thing. TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, that's what makes the engine go, right? But when you have those other guys, the DeMarcus, the Cam Haywards, and then you have the third guy, the Dorrance Armstrong, the Ali Smith, that's what makes a truly dominant pass rush. And the Steelers and the Cowboys have guys outside of that. So it was impressive to see the Bengals be able to deal with that. They didn't do as good a job in the second half, but they still got that last drive in. They held up when it matters. And without Joe Mixon got a concussion in this game. And while I like Samaje Perine and that Williams kid they put in afterwards as well, didn't look bad, not top flight, but better than replacement level, then that's okay. And that's going to be serviceable, but you need Joe Mixon in there. And they missed him a good deal. They weren't as effective between the tackles when he wasn't in there. Samaje is kind of better on the edges, kind of in the same way, but not on the same scope as Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. That's an interesting parallel as well. Way different skill sets, but the point is Joe Mixon is better at getting those grinding inside yards that you need to be able to get against the Steelers because they are very strong on the edges. So overall, to see the Bengals hold up, to see Joe get the ball out of his hands enough to beat the Steelers with TJ Watt in and of itself is pretty impressive. And I felt like the Bengals have been a playoff team this whole time. They've just had some unfortunate losses that are kind of keeping them towards the middle of the standings. But I think they have the ability to further themselves and get themselves to the playoffs eventually. They've got kind of a tough schedule to do it in, though. So it's going to take them really getting some games and going out and winning some big games. Like they really need to beat the Titans on the road next week. Chiefs the next week at home, but still the Chiefs. That'll be our big game in the 3:00 window for that week. And then Browns will have Deshaun Watson back by the time they face them again. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers on the road. Patriots on the road. They should be able to handle that. Bills at home, Ravens at home. That's a tough schedule going forward. So they needed to win this game for sure. And they're going to need to win some games down the stretch if they're going to do this. Because while I see that they have potential and I see that they're a top flight team, they have their holes too. As I've been saying, it's a testament to Joe Burrow that they were able to get the ball out on time and get away from a lot of these rushes. Doesn't always happen that way. Like that, this game could have gone the other way pretty easily, but Joe on that last scoring drive, that's what it's about. Like, can you make that drive? Joe made it twice, couldn't make it a third time in the Super Bowl, but those are the type of guys you want to have as a quarterback. Is Dak on that level? Is Kirk on that level? No, neither one of them are on Joe's level as a decision maker and as a quarterback. But I feel like if Dak was given the opportunity, he might be able to make those plays in a drive and be able to create what's beyond the given play. Like he can create more for the team. Kirk can't do that. If it's not within the given play and he's counted on to hold the ball a little bit and try to make a play downfield, that's not happening. And that's why I feel like Dak is on one side and Kirk is on the other side of this little chasm where that's what makes them different. And that's what puts them on a different level. Joe is on this whole other level when it comes to that because of the decision-making. I can't say that enough. I know I may sound like a broken record when it comes to Joe and talking about that, but I can't stress it enough. That's the difference. And that's why I wanted to watch this game too, is because there's just a stark contrast between those who have it and those who don't. And I wanted to see how Kenny Pickett looked on the other side while I'm watching Joe's greatness. And then I'm seeing Kenny Pickett on the other side. How would that make me feel overall about them? And while I'm not as hype on the Bengals defense as I have been in the past, that's kind of how they are. They're kind of a bend, don't break, hope you screw up, try to make you, beat them on long drives type of defense. I was still encouraged by what Kenny Pickett looked like against that defense. So I'm not quite as hype. I don't think they're a top unit or anything, but I think they have their strategy and I think they execute it pretty well. And I thought Kenny played well against it. He didn't make the last drive. Fine. Got picked, all that stuff. Anyway, what you want to see from Kenny at this point is, does he show you flashes of what he could be as a fully formed quarterback? Year one, the game is moving so much faster than what it looks like in college. I've been watching a lot more college this year. It's kind of my blow off day because I'm doing this. I'm doing all kinds of other stuff because this isn't quite paying the bills yet. So I've been watching the college football, and the amount of space you have to throw balls is about 100 times bigger. And the amount of tackles that get broken, the amount of hard plays you have to make and hard reads you have to make is less because there's more open guys and there's more chaos and the like. That all kind of closes up and the margins get way, 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 way tighter when it comes to the pro game. So it's going to be different for Kenny, and there's going to be times where he doesn't make a throw right. He throws it into the ground, like on a play late in the game where they had to kick the field goal, he threw one into the ground. There's going to be times like that. And there's going to be times where he doesn't look right, for sure. He doesn't know how to deal with the pressure of the like. But even with that, he still seems to be pretty mature and seems to a lot of times make pretty mature decisions with the football. Part of it is that he's not scared to run with the football. And while he might not be blazing fast, he does have functional speed. Like, not like the slowest defensive tackles, like big defensive tackles aren't chasing him down. Now, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, they're chasing him down in a heartbeat, right? They've got that speed, but you have to be able to get a little bit, like get what the defense gives you when you run the ball. And Kenny has that. And more importantly, he's not afraid to run the ball and really not afraid of anything at all. It feels like his biggest strength to this point is that he is calm, cool, and collected at pretty much every time. Not that he makes the right play every time, not that he doesn't, make bad throws at times. For sure, there's a part of that, but he makes mature decisions on the field. He's not scared to throw it to any part of the field or work on anybody at this point. He's willing to stand in there and take big hits if he needs to make a big play. Those are all big time toughness checks that a quarterback has to hit to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. Like we've been talking about Tom Brady a lot and what's going on with him. Part of it is he's not as willing to take a hit to make a big play at this point. He's trying to save himself for an eventual Super Bowl run, which is smart on one end, but it makes you less effective in the short term. Kenny is tough, and he's willing to stand in there and do what he needs to do to try and get the win. Whether that's taking that hit, like I said, or whether that's putting your head down to get a first down, to get a touchdown, whatever it is, when he's running the ball too. For the rookies and for quarterbacks that are still developing, you have to rely on your physical skills, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit more because you're not as able to beat defenses with your mind yet. But you can develop that. Joe kind of had it from the beginning, and that's what makes him special. And even for him, the game was moving too fast at times, and he threw picks, and he got sacked a lot more, and he didn't get the ball out on time as much, and it all affected his game, and they ended up, being a pretty high pick so they could take Jamar Chase. But he had that upper level decision-making from the beginning. I don't think that Kenny's on that same level by any means, and I don't think that he possesses the same amount of physical skills that Joe Burrow has, but still, for a quarterback of his experience level, it just all looks mature to me. Like he looks like a more mature passer than Mac Jones does in year two right now. He seems to have a better handle of it, and he seems to play more within himself than what Mac has been doing to this point. Same thing with Zach Wilson. I'm going to haven't rewatched that game quite yet, but I'm going to. And I know what I'm going to find, I think, because I've seen it before. They don't play within themselves. They don't play within their skill set. They don't throw the ball away enough. They force things. Kenny's not forcing things. Kenny's not panicked. They make the bad decisions when they're in a state of panic. Josh Allen used to panic. And that's a big part of what he has worked out of his game, is that he knows what he's doing and he goes for it. Kenny is going for it on a level that is beyond what a lot of rookie quarterbacks show us in year one. So that is absolutely encouraging. The question is overall for him, though, what is his upside as a quarterback, like because of his physical skills? Like, as I said, he doesn't have the same physical skill level as Joe Burrow. The arm strength isn't the same. He's not as faster and he's not as big. He's just it's all not quite there. It's a poor man's version of all of those things. I don't put him in that Andy Dalton range with the arm strength. Like that's my line of demarcation where you probably aren't a starter in the NFL. He goes beyond that by enough, no doubt. And the deep ball seems to be somewhat accurate as well. So it's not an accuracy issue. He doesn't have to put too much of his body in there to throw a deep ball. Doesn't hurt to have George Pickens catching those deep balls because I think he is incredible. And I think you should definitely buy him in Dynasty. And he has a good rapport with Kenny. Kenny trusts him completely and will throw the ball up for him. And he's been putting it places where George can get it for sure. So that part is there. It's just like he doesn't have a laser rocket arm like your Josh Allen's, like your Justin Herbert's, Patrick's, and the like. So I don't know that he has that same super elite upside. Like maybe he tops out at better decision-making Derek Carr. That can be a quality NFL quarterback. If he's able to develop the mental side and get better from where he is at already at that point, I think he can be a quality NFL quarterback. I just don't know that he's ever going to touch the elite guys. But ultimately, does he have to be that guy, especially with the way that the Steelers draft offensive talent? I love the weapons that they put around Kenny Pickett. Unfortunately, their offensive line drafting hasn't been quite as good, and they're still going to have to continue to build that up if they want to reach their ultimate upside, be able to run Najee effectively, be able to give Kenny time to work routes down the field and the like. That's the ultimate upside of this team. But it's also how far can Kenny go with this? Because, I mean, he doesn't even have the same physical skills as Dak Prescott, right? So that Dak is kind of that plus on arm strength and plus on running, not plus on either. So Kenny's not a plus on either of those things, really. Maybe he's got enough arm to be a plus arm, but overall, it's going to come down to the decision making and how far can he go with that. All of those signs look great. Like, I know it's not perfect. I know it. And Bill Belichick got to him and the like, but I think there's something there. So I think it's worth pursuing at this point for the Steelers, even though they've had some losses like this one and end up 3-7. Like, I don't think that if they're in a position to draft Will Levis, that they should. I think Will Levis is a worthy draft pick in the first round for some team. I just don't think that I would take that risk with Kenny already in tow and with your ability to draft talent. I have a big time belief in the Steelers' brain trust and in their management of players. So it'll be interesting to see what we see from him going forward. Like I said, the physical tools, they cap him at a certain point, but I think he still has enough to get there in the end. So it'll be a question of how much Jedi, how far along can he take the mental side of his game? Can he start looking guys off? Can he start hitting guys in stride like I was talking about with Joe? Because if he gives the talent that he has the ability to run with the ball after the catch, they're going to be in for big things because Freiermuth up the middle, Pickens and Deontay on the outsides. I mean, Deontay's been kind of invisible and they ended up extending him. So that's interesting. And they traded Claypool, but that's a second round pick at the very top of the second round they can use to replace him. I don't know. I trust this organization. So to see Kenny doing what he's doing, I think should be encouraging. We'll see what Steelers fans think. The next game that I watched felt like kind of an odd choice, but I wanted to see what was happening with the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts played the Eagles a tighter game than I think anybody, even Jeff Saturday probably would have thought. Maybe not Jeff Saturday, though, because he seems to have a lot of juice for his Indianapolis Colts. And I said in the podcast that, there really wasn't a whole lot of risk for them to take with the Jeff Saturday hiring, and that if it works out great, they found one of their own that seems to be quite inspiring, as it turns out, because the guys that are playing for the Colts right now are playing hard and are playing for Jeff Saturday. So to see them come out for a second consecutive week with energy and play hard against a team that maybe they're not supposed to beat at the time and play them hard. That's impressive for sure. And I know it's a new coaching staff, but Sirianni's came from the Colts system as well. So there's some intertwining there. So Sirianni should have a pretty good feel for what they have going on there, but still very tight game for the Eagles. They ended up pulling it out in the end with 14 fourth quarter points after pretty much getting dominated for most of the day. Unfortunately for the Colts, they couldn't cash in on enough of their red zone trips. Jonathan Taylor had a bad fumble when they were driving down there towards the end of the game. And granted, A.J. Brown did fumble it back to him, but they lost a lot of yardage in that exchange. Yardage that it was tough to come by for the Indianapolis Colts for the bulk of the day as well. The fact that this game was close at all really is a testament to how the Eagles played on defense as well. They got put into some bad positions, and Jonathan Taylor was able to run the ball, and they were able to establish some things at times, but ultimately the Eagles defense was too much. Adding Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph seems like a pretty good stroke of the pen by Howie Roseman as well. Adding that to Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick, and a number of other players that can rush the passer, and that gives you a pretty good pop in your front seven. And of course, you have a pretty solid secondary behind that since they added on Gardner Johnson and Bradbury to Darius Slay. It's a pretty good coup of cornerbacks for the Philadelphia Eagles in these last couple of years. Must be nice not to have to pay your quarterback at this point. That's probably coming at some point, but that'll be a big question for the Eagles on how they handle that. The Colts did a good job of keeping him inside of the pocket and forcing him to be a pocket passer for most of the day. A big chunk of that was that they were pretty successful in keeping the Eagles running game to a minimum. 141 yards is a little misleading when Jalen Hurts had 86 of those yards and really bailed them out in the end with some tough running, not only on the touchdown to seal the game, but also to get them down there for the first touchdown in the first place. They don't make that touchdown without Jalen Hurts weaponizing his legs at that point. Indianapolis had done a good job up until then, though, of keeping him within the pocket. And I think any team facing the Eagles going forward is going to want to watch this game plan to see exactly how they did it. And this is without Shaq Lawson. And it's not like the Colts had really been, they always talk about being discombobulated. It's not like they had been very combobulated before that, but same thing with the offense. Granted, Saturday kind of has everything coming together a little bit and everybody's giving that extra effort now that they kind of have things a little bit more put together. And since they, are actually starting a quarterback that is capable of moving the ball at times, not that Matt Ryan has a ton left to give in the tank, but he's about 13 times better than Sam Ehlinger thought about or will ever be, which is sad because I wanted Sam to be a solid backup, but he just doesn't have the physicality or the passing ability for the NFL. So it is what it is. I think he'd make a great XFL quarterback when they put that on, and I'll look forward to watching that. We need the XFL too. The spring is boring without football, so I'm all on board with that. But I digress. And my point being that the fact that the Eagles got played so strongly by the Colts is a little troubling, and that they've kind of sputtered in the last 2 weeks. It seems like teams have a little bit better feel for what they are doing at this point. The Eagles have a tremendously easy schedule going forward. Outside of the next 2 games, Packers, okay, that's one thing. Maybe they're not so tough on Sunday Night Football. Maybe they are. Just depends on week to week. Giants, Titans and Giants, okay. Also, 2 winning teams to this point. Teams they should probably still handle. Them Bears probably should handle that. Cowboys, that's the big matchup, and that's the one we want to see. And then Saints, Giants again. They're going to have to fight hard to not still be pretty close to the top of the NFC. Maybe they don't make it to the very top because the Vikings have a pretty easy schedule too. But and the Cowboys are still looming there with another game left against the Eagles. But still, I got to think they're going to be there. They're going to be towards the top regardless. And it takes a solid effort from a team to keep them away from the stuff they like to do with all the horizontal screen passing and the short stuff, as well as the running game. You have to have the ability to take that away first and then deal with the rest of it over the top with AJ and Devontae. Because even if you do turn Jalen Hurts into a pocket passer, he has pretty solid weapons on the outside. I think they definitely missed Dallas Goedert on the inside, though, as well. He gave them that explosive presence up the seams. So maybe that's a contributing part of this as well, is there wasn't that third security blanket type option on the inside as well. And Dallas Goedert was pretty hurt. So it's not a guarantee that he's back, even though I believe he's supposed to be back. We'll see. And I think that will make a difference for them overall. Seemed like it did today, even though they got the win, because Jalen did pull this out. Make no mistake about it. Jalen stepped up and made this win happen. It's just with his legs, and that's not always an option. Ask Lamar Jackson. If it was always an option, Lamar Jackson would already be a Super Bowl champion. He may still get there. Jalen may still get there. Kyler may still get there, but they're all in this same boat that when teams are able to keep them inside the pocket, when they don't have their full complement with their legs, are they able to win other ways? Because some teams are able to force you to win other ways. It's not always a situation where you can just run over them and they can't stop you because you're that good at that one thing. You have to be good at all the different things, and that'll be the big test for Jalen. That'll be the big test for Kyler, for Lamar, for all the quarterbacks that haven't just quite gotten there yet. Are they going to be able to show the accuracy on a consistent basis when it counts in the end during those playoff runs? That's what I'll be watching for all of those guys, because I believe they have an immense amount of talent. It's just their game is based more on the running part of it, and you can't always run. So will that make a difference for them overall? Will they be able to take that next step? Because unlike we were talking about with Kenny Pickett, where we're not sure about the physical tools, we're absolutely sure about all the physical tools with all of those guys, right? They need to increase the accuracy by like 10% and be more consistent with all of it, because when teams are able to fill the lanes and contain those guys, that's when they fall apart. And I can't wait to watch Lamar to see how the Panthers did what they did and kept that game close. I haven't gotten to that one yet, but that'll definitely be on the docket for upcoming. Well, what I want to end with, though, is Patrick versus the Chargers last night and Justin Herbert. Two of my favorite guys. And it's that other end of the spectrum on the physical skills standpoint, where Lamar, Kyler, and Jalen Hurts have arm talent. They absolutely have arm talent. And Kyler, Justin, and Josh Allen all have running talent in that same way. But it's not their better thing. They are better on the passing end of it and have serviceable running games. For these quarterbacks of the future, you're going to have a certain amount of that running game and of that ability to get outside the pocket and escape the pocket with your legs and make defenses pay with your ability to run and the like. That's something I firmly believe and talk about all the time. So the question is, for your equation of you being a successful quarterback, how much of it's running, how much of it's throwing, and are both of them good enough to take you where you need to go? That's the big question for all those guys. Justin, we're seeing it with Justin Fields a lot, right? He's a dynamic runner. He's a dynamite runner. So, and he's got a good arm. He can throw the ball down the field and make you pay there too. So is he going to be able to be complete enough in all the other phases of the game? Is he going to develop the mental side of his game and ratchet down his feet so he can be within the pocket, have his feet correct, and then hit those guys in stride? Is the accuracy portion ever going to get there with him? Those will be the questions we're asking about Justin too going forward. At least for him, now we're getting to see the physical side and that he can unleash that physical side when he needs to. That was in question before this year too for him as well. Was he going to be able to get loose and be able to take advantage of his wheels? We've seen the answer is absolutely yes. Now it's a question for them: are they going to be able to put the people around him for him to be able to succeed and develop the passing side too? For this other side, for this current crop of young elite quarterbacks, it's more about the arm strength and more about the passing portion of it. And then they also have the escapability and the movement portions of it too with Patrick and Justin. They're four quarterbacks that I love, and Patrick and Justin are two of them. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow are the other two. Those are my love portions. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers kind of sit in their little old man tent right outside the quarterbacks that I love. And then we've got the rest of everybody else with Stafford, Dak. It would have been Russell a couple of years ago, but I think that's in question. I'm going to knock him down a bit. Tua is trying to knock on that door right now, but he's slight and could get hurt at any time. So there's some questions there, but he's trying to make that move into this tier. And then Lamar, Jalen, Trevor, Justin, they're all kind of on the outside looking in too. But the big four, Patrick, Justin, Josh, and Joe Burrow, those were my favorite to watch. So to get to see them on display last night was a lot of fun. I thought the Chargers did a good job of stopping the Chiefs and bending but not breaking for a good portion of the game. You would think that they would have an easier time taking away Travis Kelce with a player like Derwin James on the field, but it just speaks to how good Travis Kelce is and how perfect his connection with Patrick Mahomes is at this point. And Justin has that with Keenan Allen. He just hasn't been into the game. And you could see last night having him in there for Justin was a big key to having the Chargers be competitive. And I got to believe that it's a huge reason as to why the Chargers have been so up and down to this point, because he means everything to Justin as far as the security blanket goes, and having a guy that you can depend on to be at a spot nearly guaranteed, because Keenan is such a professional route runner and professional wide receiver. So to see him back and to see Justin looking healthier and healthier, getting further and further away from that rib injury was really encouraging. And then the defense played Patrick pretty well and kept the Chiefs from really blowing this game open, or in the early, especially in the earlier stages, by, forcing them to kick field goals and the like. Justin was able to get loose and throw a couple of bombs, especially early on. And they were able to lean on Eckler like they have been able to pretty much all season, even though he's had more blow-up games than he has. And with the touchdowns that account for most of them, he looks good. And the Chargers line has done some gelling since they lost Slater. They looked a lot better tonight, and especially when you consider that the Chiefs field a pretty solid front four and front seven overall when you talk about Bolton especially. But having brought in Dunlap, in addition to having Chris Jones in the right spot, having Frank Clark out there, getting some contributions from other guys, and then having Bolton really backing that up with some solid linebacker play has been big. And then when refs aren't calling it really tight as far as the pass interference goes, their cornerbacks play a lot better as well. So that's kind of a game-to-game thing on that end. But really, as much as you want to talk about anything else, this came down to Patrick Mahomes being great, being the best of the best at this time. Really, I said last week, and that really aged pretty well, that he's at the peak of his powers at this time. His legs are all the way underneath him. It does take a little bit away from him when he gets one of those little naggy leg injuries, even though he's good enough to play through it. Like you saw with the Super Bowl when he wasn't at full strength, this is not quite the same. But last couple of weeks especially, he's been looking really good. And the fact that the Chargers held him to what they held him to keep this game close, like I said, was very impressive overall. Very impressive. But in the end, you knew that when the Chargers scored, that was entirely too much time, and that Patrick eventually was going to get down there. Maybe not quite so spectacularly, and it probably did take a extraordinary play by Travis Kelce to get that done, but still very impressive overall. And even though I think the Bills are set up to beat the Chiefs pretty exclusively, and they may end up doing that and have done that already once this season, I still think I would take the Chiefs as my favorite. And I'm dang glad to have them in our team draft with the rest of the round table, because I feel like they give me the best chance to win the money. And they're a guaranteed playoff team at this point, no doubt. But like I said, once again, this will probably come down to whether they can beat the Bills or not. I don't think that's set in stone by any means. There's still a lot of football left to play. And you always have to remember with all of these teams, it's a game of attrition. Who can stay healthy? What players are left on the field at the time that the playoffs come around? Because this isn't a rotisserie league. This isn't a situation where week one counts the same as, those playoff weeks. This is a one and done situation. Anything can happen in a football game, especially when you play with a ball that can bounce any direction. So fun week, fun podcast. If you've gotten to this point and haven't done so, download the podcast. Let me know that you're here and listening. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're listening on YouTube. Leave me a like. Those are always important to get my message out there and to get the podcast out there. I said there was a bunch of only 45 touchdowns, but there's going to be plenty of videos. I saw plenty of highlight-worthy stuff to put out there. So hopefully you've been enjoying that, and that's how you found me today. Appreciate y'all's time. Have a great rest of your day.